Alright, so hello everyone and welcome back to Strategy Sunday, Volume 17, where this time we will be taking a closer look at Mr. Golden Bat out of the still quite recent Tales to Amaze Unmatched Adventure set, which is probably one of the best sets I ever made. I think I made a list just for myself and it ranked on like somewhere on around number 3 for me. But yeah, really cool set. I would definitely recommend it. Although not for Golden Bat. Golden Bat is a scumbag, as you will see. I don't like him. But yeah, before we start, I've seen a very cool recommendation in the comments from I think the last matchup Monday, um, where someone asked for a competitive draft guide. Um, I really like the idea of that, and I will definitely work on it. Although I won't just make a overall draft guide because of course drafting always depends on the format that you are drafting in. Is it just, yeah, you pick one, your opponent picks one? Is there banning involved or anything? So I think I will make a video on the current format that we're using in Summer of Legends, being Banquest, um, and just explain how the draft process works, some like things you have to consider, and I'll do that, and maybe after that, if that sees some good reputation and you like it, I can also maybe try to do one for maybe Arsenal, um, or I don't know, Ladder, although Ladder isn't that complicated, to be honest. But yeah, I'll definitely do that, and definitely thanks for the recommendation. But now, enough being said, let's jump into Golden Bat. Alright, so the basic stats. Golden Bat, as you can see, is a melee fighter with 18 health, move 3, no sidekicks, which is a bit bad, but of course, as always, characters are still balanced around that, so move 3, just from the get-go, is pretty much appreciated as a solo melee fighter, because otherwise you would just kind of be a sitting duck, having to boost every time. At least with move 3 you can close the distance a bit better, and I mean, you can also, like, if you can kite, if your opponent approaches, you can maybe make them boost, which is quite nice. Also, 18 health is really nice to have since it makes you quite tanky. 18 health is one of the highest just health pools we've seen yet, which is also really good for fatigue. Because of course every maneuver is 2 damage, so having high starting health always helps. Although you don't have healing, so that 18 is all you've got, but it's usually also all you need. Um, Sadly, like I said, you're a solo fighter, so you don't have that much board control. You only have your one big body to work around with, and well, as always, since you're solo, also all attacks will be directed at Bat himself. So if you maybe don't have defense, you don't have sidekick to body block, no, they will come for Bat himself, so you have to be extra careful about that. Other than that, 12 unique cards make the deck quite consistent, even more so than other decks probably, as we will see later, due to one specific card that just really amps up the consistency. And yeah, let's just jump into character ability. So, your ability says, the first superhero. If you haven't taken a maneuver action this turn, add +2 to the value of Golden Bat's attacks. Okay, so first of all, having any kind of +2 ability is always nice because, hey, more damage. Always good. If we look at Khonshu from Moon Knight, that's really scary. Hamlet's +2 turns are really scary. This is, of course, also really scary whenever you get to do it. Now, of course, as always, on these +2 abilities, there's usually a condition on it. And the condition on this one is you haven't taken a maneuver action. That might seem hard to trigger at first, but there are multiple ways for you to make it work. So first of all, it actually specifies just the maneuver action, so it doesn't say you haven't moved this turn. So that's a big plus. Then you have, of course, if your opponent approaches you, if they're a melee fighter, well, they will end next to you anyways, except if they have any kind of movement effect after combat. If you're playing against ranged fighters, any forced adjacency spots on defense will always help. As you can see here on Raptor Paddock, there's wonderful yellow zone space that I marked with a red circle. I hope it's visible enough for you on the bottom right. Or maybe some maps even have multiple of those. Maybe McMinnville on the top has two of those bases, which force adjacency, even against ranged fighters. If they want to attack you, they have to end next to you, which is really good because in that case you can of course just first action attack. You haven't maneuvered yet, so you'll just get your +2. Otherwise, you can use your schemes as first action to get to your opponent, because even if the schemes move you, like I said, it specifies maneuver action. But since you didn't take a maneuver action, you just moved with a scheme, that doesn't count. So you get your +2 after you moved with your schemes. And then, well, movement effects on defense work just basically the same. Um, if any ranged fighter attacks you, you can just play a movement defense and then move next to them, and then you start your turn next to them, which is really good because then again you get your +2. So I think you get what I mean. This is quite easy to trigger actually if you really play around it. Although your opponent, of course, always also has ways to get around it. Just first of all, attacking from range, kiting with advantage, but it always makes it scary to approach Golden Bat because, well, if you come next to him and you're a melee fighter, well, he may have just 2+2 attacks, which is really scary, of course. So that already is a big plus, and that also kind of defines the playstyle of Golden Bat, where he wants to force the initiative onto the opponent. What do I mean by that? If Golden Bat, of course, always maneuvers and then attacks the opponent, well, you won't have your +2. That's really bad, because you maneuvered first and then had to attack second action. If, however, your opponent has to maneuver and attack, well, then they will end next to you, and, well, you can then just attack them once with +2 and then maneuver away. Repeat, your opponent has to get next to you, maybe even boost because you move 3, and then they end next to you, attack, okay, you can smack them with +2 again, maneuver away. So it's all about who has to approach. And as you will see, Golden Bat is a master at making the opponent approach. His value game is insane. But yeah, enough of that. Let's jump into the cards. First of all, we have Super Strength. It's a 5 value attack, boost value 1, 2 copies, no effect. Oh boy, 5 value attacks are always great. Even more so if you have a character with a +2 ability, so this could be a 7, which is like huge. That is insane. That will usually do like 3 or 4 damage, which is sometimes even like more than a quarter of your opponent's health. That's insane. Um, no effects is of course a bit sad, but hey, it's a 7, so who cares? Just throwing a blank 7 at them is just good overall. I don't know. This is of course your biggest attack in the deck and can really punish overextending. And it always like creates some lethal thresholds. So once your opponent is maybe at 3 health, their max value block is maybe a Skirmish, which is a 4. They always have to think about this. They cannot safely approach you anymore because you might just throw a 7 at them, they're dead. On the other hand, you might just play a scheme and then throw a 7 at them, so they might want to play aggressive. So yeah, it's just good to know that your highest value attack is a 7, and it's without any effects, so no cancels can do anything about this. The only thing that kind of shuts this down is anything that decreases value or ignores value or whatever. So yeah, not much to say. It's just a really good card. You can even throw this without your ability if needed, although I wouldn't recommend it. You have better cards for that, such as Vaporizing Eye-Beams. It's a 2 value attack, boost value of 2, 3 copies, and it says after combat your opponent discards 1 random card. So 2 value attacks, of course, usually get played for their effects. In this case, this isn't always a 2 value attack, because with ability it can be a 4, which is nice. I mean, it usually will like deal 1 damage, like half of the time, since average block value is 3, but I mean, if you use your ability, you probably want to throw something bigger, right? So it's not really needed. Because the strength of this card is of course not its value, but the effect. Random discards is like one of the strongest effects in all of Unmatched. Um, so you have to avoid feints as much as possible with this card. Why random discards are so strong? Well, of course, with chosen discards, such as Medusas, they're still strong. Your opponent loses value, they lose a card that they cannot play anymore. which is of course good. So that basically says if you play all three of these, you play a 30 card deck against a 27 card deck, which is like really good, of course. Um, but in the case of a chosen discard, your opponent can just like get rid of a regroup, whereas with random discards, well, you might just maybe hit Dracula's Beast Form or Tomoe's Witness My Last Battle or any like really important card, maybe their last defense or whatever, their big attack or anything else. And since, well, you can, it's always better than a chosen discard because with chosen discard, they discard the worst card in their hand. With random discard, the worst thing that you could get is the same as the chosen discard. If you roll and you also like discard the regroup, well, that's unfortunate, but you have like a way higher chance to discard something actually valuable. So in that case, it's just really good. But of course, Feint is your nemesis, so that might be a reason for this card to be thrown with your ability, because of course your opponent doesn't really want to feint any of your +2 turn attacks, because well, you could just be throwing a 7 and there is no effect to cancel and they take 5 damage over a feint, which is like a really big punish. Um, but in that case, well, they might still want to throw it in if they're expecting this, but since you still have your +2, you would at least deal 2 damage over the feint, so I guess that's nice. So I would say it always depends on the situation. If you really want the effect to trigger, maybe your opponent is low on hand size and you just want to pressure them, um, maybe actually throw this with your ability. Um, if you really don't want this to get fainted, but if you're more, well, if you're more so going for a value approach, that is. But if your plan is more to like throw some big attacks at them, um, I would probably rather throw some 7s with your ability, and then like in the turns where you maybe don't have a way to get your ability, maybe throw this as something that they still have to defend. And even if they feint, well, it's a defense gone. And if they don't, well, you get your enemy's card, which is still really good. Overall, insanely good card. Um, I can't emphasize enough how strong random discards are. Um, so yeah, like I said, his value game is insane, and this is one reason for it. Next up, from insanely good to insanely bad. A punch to shake the earth is a 1 value attack with a boost value of 1, 3 copies. It says after combat, deal 1 damage to each opposing fighter in your zone. If you won the combat, deal 2 damage instead. So this is kind of the regroup of your deck, because, well, it kind of has the regroup-ish effect of do 1 if you won the combat, do 2 of the same thing instead. And it's a 1 value card. So yeah. In this case, however, it's an attack only. If it were versatile, I think it would actually be quite good still. But yeah, 1 value attacks are usually just baits. Um, trying to get maybe a good defense out of your opponent's hand, and then yeah, you're happy with that. In this case, that also applies most of the time. However, the zone ping can, in some matchups, be really good against 1 health sidekicks. If you're playing against maybe Muldoon and you can get rid of maybe 2 or even all 3 workers at the same time with this card, that's huge, because 1 damage, of course, is always enough to kill them. Maybe Robin Hood or Wukong. Those are some really relevant matchups where this card is actually quite good, and your opponent will always have to position around it. Because, well, they can't really group their fighters up in a zone, because even without your ability, well, the effect damage still goes through if they don't have feints. In Wukong's case, for example, he doesn't have feints at all. He always has to think about this. And in that case, they maybe leave some opening for you to actually get and smack the hero. Maybe they, since they couldn't like full block Muldoon or Wukong with the clones surrounding him, because well, then you get this and full value kill all of them, um, and they leave an opening, and then you can reach, which might be good. However, in most matchups, this card is just absolute garbage. So what I tend to do, and what I've been told to do, I know it may sound stupid, but imagine you have a hand of 7 cards. Your opponent also has a hand of 7 cards, and your turn is starting. 2 of your cards are punched to shake the earth. What you do in that situation, usually with fighters, would be maneuver, boost, and attack with something to not lose as much value and still get an attack because you want to avoid overdrawing. With Golden Bat, that's a bit different because Golden Bat just doesn't give a shit. Um, Golden Bat in that case just double maneuvers because what I tend to do is if you have these in hand, just think as if they were not there. So if you have 7 in hand, 2 of those are punch to shake the earth, you actually only have 5 cards in hand. So you're totally fine to double maneuver away and discard the 2 punches, because the good thing is, if you and your opponent both were at 7 cards, and you double maneuver away, you create probably the largest distance on the board between you and the opposing fighter, because you're also a move 3 and you can even boost with these 2 to on each maneuvers to basically make you be able to move 8 spaces in that turn, which probably will mean your opponent won't be able to reach you. In that case, they also have to double maneuver if they don't have a pass, and they also discard 2 cards at the end of the turn. The good thing about that is their 2 cards will 99% of the time be way more valuable than this card, because this card is garbage. If you're maybe playing against Yenenga, who almost only has good cards, if she has to discard maybe, I don't know, a point blank and a stallion charge after combat just because her cards are that good, that's a huge win for you, because you lost 2 basically almost useless cards in return for getting 2 of like 2 really, really good defenses out of her hand. Um, and that's also where Bat's value game comes into play, because the value isn't just basically trading cards and making the opponent boost or random discards or whatever. Um, Same as with bait attacks, this applies as well, because bait attacks are so good because maybe if you attack with this and the opponent plays a max value block, well, you used one of your worst cards in the deck and they used one of their best cards in the deck. So if we're talking value-wise, your card got way more value because it forced a really good card out of their hand and you still have your good cards, if that makes sense. Um, so if you just double maneuver away and discard 2 of these and your opponent discards 2 other cards, well, these 2 basically get traded for the opponent's 2. So if the opponent's 2 cards are better, well, that's a good trade for you. You get way more value out of these than if you were actually attacking with them, because if you're attacking with them, well, they don't do shit. Um, and yeah, that's the main reason of this card reading. And spoiler, you have another 3 copy card which kind of has the same issue or the same strategy, and it's what makes Golden Bat so stupid. Alright, let's jump to the next one. Skirmish! Oh, a familiar face. Um, I think, yeah, we already had Skirmish. We had Skirmish in Tomoe's deck. I was not so sure if we already covered Skirmish at some point. Skirmish is one of the oldest cards we've yet ever seen, because it was, I think, in the first set. Yeah, it was. In Arthur's deck, for example. Um, it's a 4-value versatile with a boost value of 1, 2 copies. It says after combat, if you won the combat, move one of the fighters in the combat up to 2 spaces. So 4-value versatiles are great. It's a max value block. You don't complain about it. It's just really good. However, in your case, this could also be a 6-value attack, which, damn, that's good. Like, that most likely will also win the combat. So the effect in that case is even stronger usually than it would be otherwise, because in Golden Bat's case, since you are all about like making the opponent approach, um, if you can attack with this as a 6-value attack, you will probably like deal maybe 2 combat damage and you win the combat. So you can move yourself or the opponent away, meaning you kite with it with advantage. So they have to approach you with her first action and attack second action while being adjacent, which means you get another free +2 attack turn with your ability. So that's really good. And I mean, even on defense, this will usually win like 50% of the time, giving you the option to get your ability. Against range fighters, for example, you can move them closer. You can anger attack with a double attack. And I mean, even if you lose, it's still a 4-value, so max value block. This is probably like one of, if not the most versatile card in your whole deck. You can basically just always throw it if you're not sure what your opponent is doing or not sure what to do. Throw a skirmish. Like Skirmish is never a bad option. It's just such a good card. So versatile, especially in your deck. Also being able to throw it as a 6 and kite. Really, really good. Like really good. Then we have Inside of the Ancients. I'm a bit torn on this card. It's a 3 value versatile. Boost value 2, you have 2 copies. It says after combat, if you won the combat, return a random card in your discard pile to your hand. So 3 value versatiles are good overall. I mean, it's average block value. Yeah, it exists. However, as a 5 value attack, that's quite nice. Like 5 value attacks usually do like 1 or 2 combat damage, so that's good. But in this case, it also, of course, helps with the effect. Because winning combat with 3 value versatiles is not likely, on defense at least. So just getting the additional option of throwing this as a 5 value attack, which will usually win combat, is better. But the effect itself isn't that great. I mean, you often, at the start of the game, just double maneuver a lot and get rid of your garbage cards, um, which means at the point when you actually play this, your chances to get like maybe a punch to shake the earth back is like it's pretty high. You shouldn't rely on getting anything good with this. Um, so it's not that crucial. If it were like anything like a battle hardened where you can choose a card, holy shit, that would be important. Yeah, but this way is just yeah, it's there I guess, and you're happy if you can get the trigger. But it's not really necessary. If you get the extra card, yeah, it's still appreciated because it still adds value to your deck, and you can maybe like if you get a punch, still bait out a new defense or whatever. So yeah, it exists, but you don't really just solely aim for the effect, because it's not that necessary. I would usually recommend to attack with this, since the 3 value that's just not that likely to win on defense. But I mean, only in the case, of course, that you don't have anything better to throw and you have enough defenses in hand. Because Golden Bat's main issue is aggression due to lack of card draw. So often you need all the defenses that you have, in which case you throw this on defense and just hope that it triggers, I guess. But it's just overall a decent card. It's most often um, 3 value blank or 5 value, and you get some random card back, which can be good, can be bad. But it's just nothing too special. Just, yeah, it's there, I guess. And then we have Terrifying Roar. Ooh, another common card we've seen already. But I haven't covered it yet. Ah, damn, I have to catch up. It's a 3 value versatile with a booster of 1, 3 copies. It says immediately. Fighters cannot leave their space for the rest of the turn. Well, 3 value versatiles, just like before, are still good. Average value block on attack 5, you like to see. Being able to stop any movement effects, however, is probably the best thing about this card because it often results in a guaranteed turn with ability. Even if your opponent attacked with something like, I don't know, Skirmish, let's just say Skirmish, it would win against this, yeah, but since fighters cannot leave, they cannot move you or themselves, so they end next to you and nothing they can do about it, which is of course really good, um, because then you get guaranteed +2 attack, and you like to see that. It's always a scary thing for your opponent, to approach you, even with movement effects, because Terrifying Roar could be there, and might stop their movement effect. So they might play a bit more carefully around that and still have some like safety options, in which case they probably maneuvered a bit more before, which means you also got more time to draw into good defense, and that's good. However, also don't forget that this also stops you from moving if you maybe get double attacked or you double attack yourself. If the opponent approached last turn, you can play this first action to maybe stop them from moving, but if you then play a skirmish on the second attack, you can't just move away yourself as well. Don't forget that. Or if the opponent was able to double attack you, um, maybe due to some movement effect, um, well, yeah, you can make them not leave their place, but you can also not move away with your second action. Not with your second action, with your second defense card, maybe. Again, if you play a skirmish, you can't just move away again, and like prevent any other attacks. So it might not happen as often, but if you actually get caught by this and then forget, oh damn, right, I can't move, that might ruin like some cool play that you wanted to do. So just keep it in mind. But other than that, it's a really good card, especially in bad stack, of course, due to just the whole initiative thing and wanting to attack first action. And like I said, it's just always on your opponent's mind, and it's a threat even if you don't actually have it in hand. They still think about it. So yeah, really cool card. Next up, we have Like a Flash of Golden Light. It's a 2-value versatile. Boost value of 2, 3 copies. It says during combat, if Golden Bat shares no zones with the space he started in this turn, this card's value is 4 instead. After combat, move Golden Bat up to 5 spaces. So 2-value versatiles on their own are okay, I guess. It's nothing great. Um, Usually on defense you only play them for the effect, and on offense, well, they can be some kind of bait. However, in this case, oh boy, this is a really polarizing card, because on offense, it's pretty reliable a 6. Maybe if you played one of your schemes first action, teleported to the opposing fighter, or just left your zone in some way, then you can play this. It will become a 4 due to you not being in the same zone anymore, plus 2 from your ability, which is a 6. Oh boy, that's cool. But then, the movement is probably the most insane thing I've ever seen. Like, what were they thinking? Moving 5 spaces is so much, especially in Golden Bat's case. Um, this is insane to kite with advantage. It makes your opponent boost so much. it's, it's it's insane. You can just basically warp around the map with this card. Um, so usually what you do, I said before that Skirmish can be used to kite with advantage, but that there are better options for that. Well, this is the better option, because with Skirmish you can move one of you up to 2 spaces, which still leaves you in a single maneuver range, so your opponent can still attack next turn probably. With this one, you go in there, smack them with a 6, and then basically warp to the other side of the board, which means they have to maneuver, maybe boost, maybe can't reach at all. And that's just insane for the value game, because they might have to overdraw, or, like I said, boost, which means they're still losing some cards. And, well, that's really good for you. On defense, this will usually just be a 2, which isn't great, I guess. It can be a 4 in some rare circumstances where you already, like, maybe played another copy of itself or a skirmish or whatever on defense before, or your opponent moved you, maybe with Timoe, moved you with Warrior's Way outside of the zone. I don't know. It can be 4, but I would usually think of it as just a 2. So you'll take a lot of damage usually, but at least if you're playing against ranged fighters, you can still close the gap between you and them, like almost in every turn, every time. Move 5 spaces next to them and again guarantee your +2 attack turn. So I guess it can be useful in that case, but it's definitely better used on offense. It can also be used without your ability, as still a reasonable case. If you're just going for a value game, you don't always need to throw a +2 attack, because even a 4 is still likely to deal like maybe 1 combat damage. And again, probably the main strength of this card is the movement effect, just being able to warp around the board and just run away, because that's what Golden Bat does. He runs away most of the time, in meta matchups at least. Um, to be fair, there are some low tier matchup where he just goes unga bunga and it's cool, in which case I actually enjoy him. But yeah, so yeah, kiting with this, really strong, probably one of the best cards in his deck in my opinion. And yeah, I don't know why it's 5 spaces. 4 would have been enough. Even 3 would have been enough. But yeah. Next up. Woohoo, more garbage. Sight Beyond Sight. It's a 2-value versatile. Boost value of 1, 3 copies. It says, after combat, look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Put them back in any order. So, 2-value versatiles are okay, I guess. They are there. Um, but holy shit, this card is trash. Like, 2-value versatiles on their own aren't that great. They usually like rely on their effects, maybe feint canceling the opponent's effect, which is quite good, or like a flash of golden light before moving 5 spaces, or maybe being able to bump up the value somehow. But this is just a 2. It's just a 2. Why? Because looking at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck, sure, it can be useful. Maybe, I don't know, if you're playing against Wukong and you see that his last ultimate defense is in the top 3 cards, and he doesn't have it in hand in that case. Well, that might be important. Okay, that is in like 1 out of 30 games where it's actually useful, but the effect itself is garbage. Um, like rearranging them in any order won't really do much. Maybe if you're playing against a blind boost character, you can control a bit what they will boost with if they even decide to boost. But I don't know, it just doesn't do much. If we compare this to maybe like insightful deduction from Jill, where you can actually put a card on bottom of their deck, which is like insane, or with Moon Knight's case, with that support I like, where you can actually discard one of them. That's really strong because you can either like put a really good card out of the way so that they will only see it at the end of the game, or you can just discard it. With this one, you can just say, okay, yeah, you draw it not in the next 2 cards, but after that, which doesn't really do much. So yeah, this card just basically falls in the same category as Punch, where you just pretend like it doesn't exist. You just overdraw, discard, force your opponent to discard, and overdraw as well. And yeah, then that's fine. The only like better thing this has over Punch is that yeah, it can be used as a defense. So if you don't cannot block at all or use this, yeah, you still use it, I guess. But uh, it's just a bad card overall. But that's actually one of Bat's big strengths, that he has so much trash. Because if you're thinking about it, you have 6 cards that you're willingly throwing away each game. If you do it at the right point, your opponent will also probably have to throw away maybe 4 to 5 cards. So you lose 6 trash cards, so 24 cards left. They lose maybe, in best case, 6 trash cards. So they also 6 like good cards or good-ish cards. So they also only have 24 left. Then you have 3 random discards, which makes their deck go down to 21. And then you maybe also have like 1 or 2 recursion from ancient, from inside of the ancients. So yours goes actually up to 26-ish or 25. And well, they lost some actual good value, and you lost basically nothing, which is just stupid. Like, the value game, just due to having so much trash, is insane. I never thought that I would praise having trash, but yeah, that's Goldenbat's big strength, actually. He can just run away and discard trash and make the opponent discard good cards, which is like really stupid. But yeah. Next up, not trash, really good. He laughs at your feebleness. I hope that was really evil and diabolical. I don't know. It's a 5 value defense. Boost value 3. 2 copies. No effects. What the? Why? 5 value blocks are insane. Like 4 value blocks were already max value block and really good, but 5? Why? Why is this 5? But it's funny that you have like a print 5 block only and a print 5 attack only. So it's cool design wise, but why? Yeah, this is so good against high value attacks. Like if Bigfoot throws a lock at you, usually like a lock is at least 2 damage guaranteed, or maybe if the opponent doesn't have uh, optimal draw and like doesn't have their best 2 defenses, um, it just blocks with average block. It's 3 damage. Golden Bat just says, ha ha ha, no, it's just 1 damage from a lock, which is stupid. Yeah, I don't know. 5 value defenses are insanely good, of course. Um, Sadly, this one can be countered since it doesn't prevent effect damage like maybe Indestructible Claw from Jill's deck. In which case, of course, you feel really sad if maybe Little Red plays a Once Upon a Time into this with Huntsman and you were expecting a 6. You feel really sad because the 3 effect damage will still go through, and you basically blocked a 2-value attack with a 5 and still took 3 damage, which is not great. Um, but overall, it's like still one of your safest blocks and really good. Like in many matchups, Not all fighters have like that big punish to good blocks, so they don't have that much attack damage. So it's just all kind of always good to throw this. And yeah, it's a 5 value block. I don't know what to say else. Like it's strong, of course. It's a 5 value block. So yeah, good card. And then, as if the stupidity had no end, Imposing Presence is a 3 value block. Boost value 2, 2 copies. It says immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card. So 3 value blocks are already good on their own, their average block value, and that's just okay. But holy, this is a 3 value feint. Like usually the drawback to feints is if you use them on defense, they're only a print 2, which means they can get punished really bad if maybe like the opponent played a print 4. Yeah, maybe you cancel their cool effect, maybe recursion, still standing from Luke Cage, but you still take 2 damage, in which case the opponent does feel as sad because, well, you got punished a bit and you still got 2 damage, which would be nice, but in this case it's a print 3, and trust me, that makes a huge difference. Um, Especially in like a fighter like Golden Bat who already has like 18 health. That 1 health more or less is just sometimes he feels unkillable, to be fair. Um, 3 value feints is really, really good. Because yeah, you just don't care. You can just like the 5 kinda, you can throw this into everything because the biggest punish will usually like most decks only have a max of print 5 attack. Um, even if they even have one. So you might just take a max 2 damage, but that's fine. You have 18 health. So yeah, you don't really care. But in most cases, it will just mean no damage. The opponent has blank card. Bam. And of course, in this deck, it's even stronger because, well, it also stops movement effects, so it can act like a terrifying roar. Um, in that case, kinda. If the opponent went in and attacked with Skirmish, again, yeah, they deal you 1 damage, but they don't get to move you or themselves. So, hey, you basically have 5 terrifying roars in this one. Of course, you can only use it on defense, but I mean, you wouldn't really want to throw a 5 value cancel on offense anyways, except for like first action attack, but in that case you can also throw a roar to not make them leave or whatever. But yeah, insanely strong card. Um, Next to Skirmish, probably the safest block overall in your deck, and then you still have 2 print 5s, and I don't know, it's stupid. And then you make the opponent boost so much and lose value, and yeah, you don't die. And then we'll get to the schemes. It's arrive just in time, boost value 2, 2 copies, place Golden Bat in any space. Well, that's pretty simple, I guess. Um, but the good thing about this card, hey, this is basically just a free +2 attack turn. Because whenever you have this in hand, you can play it first action, warp next to the opponent you didn't maneuver, and then second action, attack them with +2. That's really easy. On the other hand, this is also pass and fatigue, so you not only have 18 health and a ridiculous value game, no, you also have passes. So just playing 2 of these basically brings your health fatigue wise up to 22. Plus you have like usually 3 or 4 more cards than the opponent. So yeah, you know what I'm getting at. And this is not even the end. Um, Often you can also just use this to warp to the other side of the board, making the opponent boost or just overdrawing because often you just don't really care about the +2 attacks, but just want to make them lose value because if you win fatigue, there's no reason for you to actually approach them. Never. You have so much trash to throw away, you can just run away the whole time. This is a really good card for that because well, maybe your opponent got to boost last turn and then actually reached you. Now you can just play this, warp to the other side of the board, maneuver. You go up to the same hand count that you were at before, and the opponent is at the same point where they were before. Well, fuck, do I boost now and attack, or do I overdraw? And that's not great. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just a themeless deck with so many movement effects. You can make the opponent boost so much, and they lose so much value, and it's insane. And then, as if it couldn't get any worse, Alpine Fortress. To be honest, probably one of the coolest cards in all of Unmatched, but also one of the stupidest in all of Unmatched. If it were in any other deck, I would probably really love this card, but in Golden Bat's deck, it's just so insanely dumb. Um, Choose a card in your discard pile and shuffle it into your deck. Draw 2 cards. Move Golden Bat up to 4 spaces. Oh, and we swing you three copies. Ooh. Yeah, this card is insane. First of all, whenever you play the first Alpine, shuffling a card back into your deck is huge value. You can get, maybe if you played a 5 before, you can get a 5 back. You can get a third 3 value cancel, which is really good. You can get another random discard, which is really good. That again increases your deck size, and maybe if you pick the right card, like a random discard for example, also maybe decreases basically your opponent's value again. That's just insane. On the other hand, you can also recycle a pass and arrive with this. So if you play all 3 of these and shuffle arrive back each time, you have 5 passes that warp you around the board and make the opponent boost even more. See what I'm getting at? That's stupid. Um, so just like if you use the full value of this card to recur other cards, you can have 5 passes or 6 random discards or 5 7 value attacks. Huh? No matter what you need in any situation, play Alpine. It's so stupid. Um, However, most often, since you don't really feel pressured that much usually with Bat to recur anything else, you just recur itself. Because it doesn't say like any like combat card or whatever. No, you can also recur another Alpine. Because why not? More recursion. Woohoo! Um, in that case, it kind of functions like a maneuver if we're talking fatigue-wise. It's not a pass because you shuffle 1 card back into your deck, which is of course good value-wise. Then you draw 2 new cards. So you shuffled 1 back, draw 2, so you basically decrease your deck size by 1. But then you can also move up to 4 spaces. So you get 2 new cards, one of which you maybe shuffled back already, so there's a higher chance to draw the card that you wanted. Um, and then you can move up to 4, move up to 4. So it's basically like a super maneuver. You draw 2, move 4, and you shuffle itself back, so you can basically always do that. And since it's a scheme, it's not a maneuver action, you can also get +2 attack after that. So, yeah. This card is insane. It's just so stupid. Like, this just defines your whole game plan. Um, this card is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in combination with this deck. Because probably without this card, I think Bat would still be strong. I think he would still have some mean value game, but it wouldn't be as bad because it would still be quite hard to trigger some +2 attacks and he could be pressured really well. But with this, not at all. Not at all, usually. Um, because, of course, if you always recur itself, at some point you will always have an Alpine in hand. Because that's again where the lot of trash cards come into play. At the start of the game, you just run away, you get rid of all your shit, and then you come to the point where you and your opponent maybe both only have 15 cards left in their deck. But from that point on, you will basically always have an Alpine in hand. So that means every turn you play this smack +2, play this smack +2, play this smack +2. And of course, if you both have 15 cards, but you always get a +2 attack where they only get a normal attack, you win. Simple as that. And then, like, it's not even that you are even with them a deck card. Usually you're like 3 or 4 cards ahead. So, well, it's stupid. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this card. It's the best card in the deck by far, not even close. Um, and it's just insane. Like, even if you recur itself, if you see, okay, at some point the opponent only has like 1 raid to reach me anymore with 1 boost 3, yeah, from there on you just recur arrives again. You maybe didn't get the first one shuffled, but from there on you still have 4 passes if you use the other 2 and then just run away and still win in fatigue. Like, recurring itself with Alpine is always the best thing because you keep all your options open. You still can attack all the time. You keep your draw cycle up. You can always move and attack with +2. And if you need, you can still recur anything else later. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's so huge for value. What this also means is you only have to boost to get to the opponent if they're 5 spaces away, which is like insane. Usually, move 2 characters have to boost if they're 3 away. You as a move 3 already have a good thing about that, that you can also like just maneuver and hit them without boosting when they're 3 spaces away. But no, you're actually not a move 3 character, you're a move 4 character kind of with this. So you basically never have to boost. The opponent basically always has to boost, and if they don't, you're smacking them with +2, of course. Um, and then you have 3, 4 random discards, technically 2, 3 passes in a game. Insane blocks, maybe not the insane quantity of blocks, but since they're boosting so much, well, they don't have so many attacks to throw at you, so you don't need so many good blocks. And yeah, that's just where Bat becomes stupid. So let's jump to a conclusion. I don't know. I think I've already said all of this here, but let's just go through it again. Bat is one of, if not the most insane value fighter I have ever seen. Maybe next to Strange. Like, if someone can outvalue Yanenga, that's holy shit. If you combine the 3 random discards, basically 33 card deck, if you recur 3 cards in total, basically with Alpine, 3 other cards except for Alpine itself, 2 potential recurs from discard, and then the ability to almost like never having to boost due to Alpine, you get like an insane package overall. Then you have all of your movement effects to make the opponent boost. You have so many trash cards to throw away so that they also have to overdraw and then lose even more value. You're a move 3 fighter, which means you can kite really easily. Um, and it's insane. Like, usually Bat's game plan is quite simple. You make the opponent lose as much value as possible at the start while getting rid of all your bad cards. And then once you only have your good cards left, maybe your random discards, although maybe you want to play them before to make them lose even more value. So let's say you only have like your flash left, your super strengths, your skirmishes, feebleness, and cancels, and then alpines. From there on, you just constant +2 smack them every single turn due to alpine. And well, 12 cards against 12 cards with +2 or whatever. Well, the 12 cards with +2 will win. Um, at least usually. If that should fail him, he can play still one of the nastiest fatigue games out there. Like, if recurring alpines and then smacking with +2 every turn at the end doesn't work to kill the opponent for some reason, you can still like recur your passes 3 times. You probably already are ahead in fatigue because you have so much discard and such a good value game that the opponent has to maneuver way more than you have to. Um, and they lose so much value with boosting that you probably are already like 2 or 3 cards ahead of them in fatigue. Then you also have like 5 passes with an 18 health total, which means like basically 10 health on top of that. 28 health fatigue wise is stupid. I already touched it on the strange one, I think, with his ridiculous total, and 28 is like still insane. Um, so yeah, and actually due to having no card draw, which might be one of his biggest weaknesses usually, because well, if the opponent can aggress you at the start of the game, you only have so many good defenses. They might get some good damage in there, but sometimes you just draw your good stuff and then it's fine. And not many characters actually have the pressure and draw to actually make you worried that much. Um, and in most games, the lack of draw is actually good because in that case, you can just maneuver away, create more distance, make them boost again. And yeah, it's just insane. Like, you, there's not much the opponent can do about it. The main hope in most matchups is just to go full Unga Bunga aggro and hope that you don't draw your right defenses. And if they manage to pressure you enough, yeah, you might not be able to execute your regular game plan, but you're still not in much of like danger usually because you still have 18 health. You can afford to take maybe 1 or 2 attacks throughout the game, and yeah, still play your value game after that. Um, Overall, Bad is a fighter that just plays around initiative, value all the time. Those are the 2 main things that you're concerned about. You don't care about anything else. Make the opponent approach, first step, and then just make them boost every single turn, kinda. And yeah, if you understand those terms and can make them work in your favor, and like always know how to position in a way to make like the opponent lose as much value as possible, when to actually smack with +2, um, when to force the initiative onto them. If you understand that, if you understand these fundamentals, Bat is probably in the top 5 strongest characters in the whole game right now. It's not that he's fundamentally broken like maybe Sherlock, Strange, and Elektra, where they just shut down specific characters insanely hard, but Bat kind of feels like a Yanenga on crack sometimes, where the value game is even more insane and there's not much you can do about it. If you're not like that familiar with all of this, just try to be a bit more degenerate, because that's what I've seen a lot of times when people played bad. At some point they felt like, well, but I don't want to overdraw and then lose cards. No, go for it. Just just be a complete asshole. and you and you should still make him work kinda. Um, of course, this is mostly aimed for meta matchups. Um, like I said, maybe Yanenga, Medusa, and those kind of fighters, because usually meta fighters revolve all around value and initiative and fatigue. That's like what the whole meta is always about, usually. But um, of course, in low tier matchups, you might just actually be able to Alpine smack, smack, smack stuff. Um, so yeah, but if you're going up into like maybe She-Hulk, um, you never approach. Like, yeah, you overdraw until your deck is empty, basically. Which might sound stupid, but you win. So yeah, just try to be a bit more degenerate when you play bad, and it should turn out fine. So let's get to his card tier list. So I wouldn't say he has any like D tier cards that are just like you wish they weren't in the deck, because even his trash cards are good because they're trash, if that makes sense. Um, Starting with C tier, I still think Side is probably the worst overall, like, although I couldn't really decide between Side and Punch. I mean, Side still is a defense, okay, sure, but yeah, you just throw it away and hope your opponent has to throw something away. And then B tier, of course, Punch. I just gave it the edge because, yeah, there are some matchups, maybe, like I said, Wukong, just overall the one have sidekicks, um, where it is actually a really good card, but that's like a few, like 3 or 4 in the whole game, only 2 of which are really meta relevant. So, yeah, I guess in that case it can be good. But overall, trash, throw away. And then A tier. Let's start with Inside. Um, well, it's a defense. You're good with that. You can get maybe one of them to trigger the other game, which is just extra value. You don't really need it, but hey, why not? Why not just give that extra value? Because why not? Yeah. Then Arrive. It's a pass. It can make the opponent boost. It can get you an like instant +2 attack, which is of course really good. But overall, it doesn't really do much on its own. So I wouldn't really consider it an S tier card. Um, Same with your 5 value block, laughs at your feebleness. It's a good card overall, but it can still get punished by effect damage. Um, then Imposing Presence is also like insane block, of course. You can't do anything wrong by playing it, but it also won't just impact the game as much just by playing it and like force something bad upon the opponent, which is usually what I like to see from S tier cards. Then Terrifying Roar is just decent overall. Um, can also still get punished, but at least you can usually force your +2 attack and it's still defense. And then I actually put Super Strength in A tier because I just feel like there are better things to attack with Bat, just because you play Degenerate. So 7 value attacks aren't actually that great. It's kind of the same like with Tesla's Death Ray, where yeah, it can be a 7, but it's not often used as that. So yeah. And then we'll get into the S tier. These are like the cards that defy your whole game. Skirmish, best block in your whole deck, always good. And yeah, if you have any card to recur with the first Alpine, and you don't know what, pick Skirmish. Pick Skirmish. Then Vaporizing Eye Beams. Hey, random discards. Random discards are insane, especially in a value fighter like that. Yeah, I don't know. I've said everything I need to say about random discards. Then Alpine. I mean, Alpine is Alpine. I've talked enough about it. I don't want to see it ever again. And then Flash of Golden Light. 5 spaces movement is so insane. That on a potential 6 value attack or even on a 4 is, I don't know, it's stupid. Um, and yeah, I've told you he might be top 5. Let's look at it, look at his matchup spread. Don't try it. Okay, Houdini. Houdini will always be there and just kick the shit out of you. Like, usually you try to run away with that and don't get aggressed as much. Well, Houdini doesn't care because he can walk around the board and always attack. So, yeah. Houdini is one where I would just say, okay, nope. Just no, doesn't work. Um, Electra, well, Electra is Electra. She has an even insaner value game than you. Although, although you can have a chance, I guess, if you manage to get a punch early into all of the hand and then, I don't know, maybe chase Electra and get good sevens on her early, but it's not likely that she'll let you do that. And then Sherlock. Sherlock is like your biggest counter in existence because Sherlock just shuts you down on every level. Like, Sherlock never has to approach. Sherlock has so many passes. Basically, he never takes damage even if you attack with +2 because he can blank basically your 7 into a 3 with deduce. And yeah, Sherlock is Sherlock. I mean, yeah, that's it. But I mean, Sherlock and Electra usually are just banned anyways. So yeah, the only thing you'll have to watch out for is Houdini. And then the slightly bad ones are the ones where I might say, okay, could be a bit bad, but you definitely still have a shot. Tomoe, just since you can't really run away against Tomoe because you always take ping, that's not great, so you have to play a bit more aggressive against her. In which case, yeah, she definitely has more draw. She can confront one of your good defenses basically whenever you attack with +2, except for punch. So in that case, punch might be actually a good attack. Um, Raptors, well, you don't have anything to move through opposing fighters on defense, so if Raptors come to you and smack you with a big action turn, there's not much you can do about it except for fainting, and you only have 2 of them, so that might be a problem. Strange is strange, has an even insaner value game than you do, but there is a shot for you. If you can get 1 or 2 big attacks on him and actually make him worried about his health, it might work. T-Rex, again, tries to aggress you as much as possible. That one is just about who draws better, and usually T-Rex is just more consistent in drawing big attacks than you are in drawing good defenses. Luke just doesn't give a shit. Luke smacks you to death. Um, he doesn't care about your +2 attacks. He just skin like titaniums and deals you 5 damage back, and then just kills you with so many 6s and 5s. And yeah, that over your low quantity of good blocks. Yeah, don't really care. And Wukong can actually also just go really aggressive on that one. He doesn't summon as many clones just because he's scared of punch, because that basically will always trigger, but again, you can't really go on him with a good +2 attack turn because of his ultimate defenses, and then you lose again much value against Ox, Jingabang, and Daunting Laughter, that it might be hard against him, but you definitely still have a shot. The even ones, Titanian Sisters are really cool. Both can try to aggress you really much, but it's not as bad as against T-Rex or Raptors. And Titania, of course, can at some point sleepwalk, maybe, if you let her. So that's a cool dynamic one. Bigfoot has big values, has still a good fatigue game, and yeah, Bigfoot is Bigfoot. Winter Soldier is a fun one because he also kind of applies the Luke strategy where he just doesn't give a shit and deals you more damage back than you can deal to him. Of course, he has to have the right draw for it, but I would consider it even. Simpan again tries to aggress you, but it's mostly dependent on draw. Alice is one of those fun low tier matchups where you can also just go smack, but it's just really even overall. Same with Red, I would say. You also try to be a bit more aggressive on that. Kill Huntsman early, but I mean, it's still Red. She has like so many good tools. to play around. So yeah, I would consider it even. And then we get into the huge amount of matchups that are just favorite or free win. Um, Tesla, you smack to death. Jill, you outvalue. Uh, Widow can't kill you. Dusa, you outvalue. Daredevil, you smack to death. Moon Knight, you outvalue. Yen, you outvalue. Achilles, you run away and fatigue. Drak, you outvalue. And free wins. Hey, Muldoon, you just poured into him with arrive and smack him to death. She-Hulk, you never approach. She can't do anything. And basically everyone else is just a combination of both of them. Just smack to death or run away. And yeah, I don't know. Bat is insanely stupid. Concerning maps, so Bat usually likes bigger maps where he can take his time to build up his hand, run away a bit more, make the opponent boost. However, move 4 center maps or close to it are still appreciated because, well, Alpine lets you move 4. So whenever you want to go for an Alpine, you also want to be able to reach. So any map with a move 4 center is definitely appreciated, although that also gives your opponent a better chance to reach you. So it's always a bit dependent on how much you are worried about actually getting attacked and how much you actually want to attack yourself. If you're more worried about like getting attacked that much, maybe if you're playing against Achilles, you might want to play on a move 5 center map because you'll still often be able to reach with Alpine, but it's way easier for you to run away. Whereas if you're playing against someone where you actually want to go in there and smack, you might just want to keep the option of move forward to chain Alpines. Um, but yeah, overall, top 3 maps, I would say the best map by far for Bat is McMinnville, due to 2 things. First of all, you have these 2 wonderful forced adjacent spots that we talked about in the ability, on the character ability page, where you can just chill and, well, ranged fighters just cry, basically. And against anyone else, you can also just force adjacency. Um, Other than that, it's move 5, but only one space on the whole board is always move 5. So if you're in center, the opponent has to basically run to the complete other side of the board, boost twice to even get to that one move 5 spot, so that you can't use Alpine and get to them. In which case, well, you can double maneuver again yourself, and then they have to overdraw again. So I think Minville is just by far the best map for him. And then I think 2 and 3 can be interchangeable. It's the 2 passageway maps, which are also basically move 4 centers, but since it's passages, you can just make the opponent boost so much, you can warp around the board basically. Alpine almost always reaches, and yeah, it's really good. And then honorable mention, I might say, with Point Pleasant, because from end to end, that one is also actually really large, and it has quite the good zoning for both Flash of Golden Light and even Punch to Shake the Earth at some point. And that's also a move 3 or 4 with one, basically move 3 and one space is move 4 center map. So if you want to go a bit more aggressive, I think Point Pleasant is a good choice. Other than that, Solomon's and Basketball are always decent into basically anything, and if you want to be degenerate, pick Minville. Yeah, that would be it. Thank you for watching. Feel free to write any feedback, questions, or character suggestions next time in the comments. Tell me who you want me to see me cover next. Planned are Luke Cage and then Black Panther. Although I might say one thing, I'll start studying tomorrow. My pre-course like starts then, so it's not like the big thing yet, but I might take a bit more time. Um, than usual. So I'll just have to see how much it actually like consumes my time, how much I have to learn and prepare. So take these with a grain of salt. I think I'll still be able to like get these out every 2 weeks, at least at the start, as long as we don't have like the big new stuff coming in. But just for the future, there might not be as many uploads in between as well. Maybe with Match on Monday or like anything else that I come the idea with, like the drafting guide next. So yeah. And then after that, also on the list, Genie, Houdini still, and I also put Yining up there because Yen is cool. And I just really like Yen. Yen is my go-to pick every time when I draft. Spoiler. So yeah, until next time.